Welcome back to the show.
Welcome back to the show.
And now, your hosts of the Card Subject to Change podcast, the For Frequency's Sake Tag Team Champions of the World, the Wizard CZ, and Never Wrong Nick Bull.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting edition, a special edition of the Card Subject to Change podcast, the podcast by the fan for the fan. Of course, I am your host, Never Wrong, Nick Bull. I'd be remiss if I did not mention my co-host, the one, the only, the Wizard CZ. Wiz, how you doing?
Did you forget who I was for a minute, Nick?
I did. It's midweek. I had the midweek blank stare there for a second, but we're all set now. We're all set now.
We've only been doing this for over 2 years.
I mean, I knew the face. I knew your face. I knew what I wanted to say. Yes, my co-host and tag team partner of the For Frequency's Sake Network, both on here of Card Subject to Change, and of course the Kick Out, our midweek show. That was earlier tonight, but we got a special edition of the show tonight, and explain what we're doing here tonight, CZ, and bring in our guest.
So we're going to talk about what exactly we're going to talk about here in just a minute, but I want to give a big shout out to our guest here. He is a good friend of the podcast. I want to welcome him into the studio. He's been with us several times. He was our very first interview when we started interviewing wrestlers and former wrestlers on the. So joining us today, Marek Brave in the studio. Marek, how you doing, buddy?
What's going on, guys? Thanks for having me on once again. It's always cool when you guys intro me and remind me that I was the very first guest of the show. So, hopefully I'm not the last guest of the show. Hopefully you guys keep this thing going for many years to come. You guys are doing great.
I sure hope so. We want to thank you for stopping by. Of course, our guest tonight's been really busy with the media in the area. And we're like, you know what? We're going to get him on when it's died down a little bit, because I know I have questions. I know fans have questions, but we want to talk, Marek, obviously, about the announcement that was made by WWE last week, involving an independent development deal and naming off some wrestling schools, academies, and whatever, and Black and Brave makes that list. So kind of explain, what you find out and what does this mean for the wrestling fan as they watch and take in the product today.
Yeah, well, I think it's a great thing for anyone who is associated with independent wrestling or even just a fan of independent wrestling. For a long time, independent wrestling has kind of been like the Wild West, if you were going to an independent wrestling show, you crossed your fingers and you hoped you were going to a good one, If you were an aspiring independent wrestler and you were trying to find a place to get credible training, there just wasn't a lot of information out there, and it was kind of a crapshoot whether or not you were choosing the right place to go to. I think myself, obviously, with my association with my business partner, Seth Rollins, longtime friend of mine, he's a very recognizable name in professional wrestling. So I think a lot of people, when choosing to come to Black and Brave, they felt comfortable knowing that with his involvement, it was going to be a professional place, and it has been. But now WWE wants to shine a light and focus on independent organizations and wrestling schools and eventually even talent. They're going to be rolling out a list of wrestlers that have been signed to WWE ID deals here shortly. And that's basically them giving a stamp of approval on these schools and these organizations and these wrestlers and saying, hey, if you as a consumer, as a fan of independent wrestling, if you're nervous about going to this promotion or seeing this wrestler, or if you want to be a wrestler and you're nervous about going to your selected wrestling school, we can help you out and tell you these are trusted individuals and places, and these places are doing things the right way. They're not going to rip you off. And in our case, at the Black and Brave Wrestling Academy with our training facility, you can come here and you can be confident in the fact that you will be trained the right way. You will learn it in a safe environment, but also an environment that's going to push you to be the best version of yourself. So we're still doing things the same way we've always done them. We're not modifying our training in any way, shape, or form. You're going to get the Black and Brave method when you come to the Black and Brave Wrestling Academy, but with a little bit more added extra peace of mind that you're spending your money in the right spot and you are going to get your money's worth at our school.
Oh, for sure. Now, you mentioned something that I've been itching to ask you all week. You mentioned, the perspective of young talent having the WWE ID given to them or awarded to them. My question is is the WWE ID just going to be for new students who are coming into, say, Black and Brave, or like the other places like Nightmare Academy, or to name a couple of local names that I've been following quite a bit, Eric Knight, Augustus Draven, and of course I can't not mention our good friend JT Energy, who does a lot for our show. But does everybody have a chance to be a perspective in this new venture?
I'm not privy to all of the details regarding the WWE ID program. I obviously focus more so on the wrestling school aspect of it as a co-owner of the Black and Brave. But it is my understanding that the initial list of talent are going to be people who have been trained at these places, and maybe not even necessarily exclusively at these places, but just people that they've been keeping an eye on, people that they're interested in working with in the future. The ID stamp isn't necessarily, again, from my understanding of the program, it isn't necessarily a contract that you're signing that says in 6 months or a year's time, we're bringing you down to NXT and you're going to be on weekly television and then one day called up to Monday Night Raw or Friday Night SmackDown. That's not what it's about. From my understanding of the program, it is a way to allow these talents to get out there, make the rounds, be seen at various promotions across the country, and not just stay locally in their area that they've been focusing on, but with the peace of mind and the financial backing of WWE. These wrestlers are going to receive a weekly stipend or a monthly stipend, and that's going to allow them to focus on going to the gym during the week and getting in the best shape possible, going tanning, taking acting lessons so they can cut better promos, things like that. It's going to allow them to really focus on what they need to focus on to be the best independent wrestler they can be, with hopes that will someday translate to them, giving a return to WWE in the form of being a main roster talent or an NXT talent that helps them to make money as well. They can receive a return on their investment. So, to me, as somebody who has been in independent wrestling for 21 years, that if you would have approached me with an offer like that when I was 18, 19, 20 years old, that would have meant the world to me. Working a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday so that you can support your habit of independent wrestling on the weekends, that's a tough thing to do. And it doesn't allow you a lot of extra time for pretty much anything in life. So to have the backing of a major company, a major corporation like WWE, and to have that financial security while you're trying to make a living for yourself in professional wrestling, that's invaluable. So it's really cool that WWE wants to start doing that. And we're in the infancy of the program right now, so we'll see where things go. I understand there's a lot of people out there that are skeptical of such a large corporation like WWE getting involved in something like independent wrestling, but you have to understand who's kind of leading the charge in WWE right now, and that's Triple H. And Triple H, 8 years ago, I had the opportunity of going down to NXT for a week and guest coaching the talent down there. And while I was down there, I was pulled aside by Triple H, and he had a conversation about an idea he had where he wanted to shine a light on the independents, because a lot of the talent that he was signing at that time was coming from the independents. My business partner, Seth Rollins, obviously made his name on the independents. Cesaro, who's now with AEW, had made his name on the independents. Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, and the list goes on and on. these stars came from the independents, and Triple H did too. Triple H was an independent wrestler before he signed with WCW many years ago, and then obviously went on to big things within WWF and then WWE. So Triple H has always had an affinity and just a deep-rooted love for the independents, and this is his way of not only giving back to the independents, but allowing people who come from the independents maybe an easier path or a less stressful path to WWE if that happens for them. Not everyone who signs one of these ID deals will make it in NXT or WWE, Monday Night Raw, SmackDown, whatever it may be. There's no guarantees in life, and there's no guarantees within this program. But I do think you have a better shot at it. You have a better opportunity to make it big someday if you get the WWE ID stamp of approval. And if you train at a facility that also has that same approval.
Marek, when you say that, it just, to me, it speaks to how big independent wrestling has become. When you say, hey, if that offer was there, if I was 18, 19, 20, it wasn't. But fast forward a few years, and now those offers are being a real deal now to people.
Yep.
Because of the success of independent wrestling. Once upon a time, independent wrestling was the redheaded stepchild in the corner. You didn't mention them. It was taboo to notice the indies. But now the indies have produced so much talent that the fans have always known about, that when the big guys get a hold of them, they become megastars. But it's just like, I just think that speaks to indie wrestling and how big it has become as a big, vital part of a player in the game.
Yeah, and I completely agree. And there's a lot of really untapped talent at the independent level that even throughout my 21 years in independent wrestling, some of the best wrestlers I've ever spent time in the ring with never had an opportunity to make it big, and their careers were cut short for various reasons. And the average person never even heard of them. So, that's a sad story for those people. But for wrestlers now and moving forward, they'll have a better opportunity to maximize their skills and take themselves as far as they can take themselves within this business with the backing of an organization like WWE.
And I feel this has a lot of parallels with the other program that WWE launched a few years ago, the NIL program, where they're looking at athletes coming out of college who maybe don't know about wrestling or don't have interest right away with wrestling. I love the fact that this puts the spotlight on the people that we see every week on the indies, gives them a wider audience, puts more eyes, I think, on independent wrestling. And I love that. Absolutely.
Yeah. And again, going back to skeptics on the internet, when that NIL deal was announced with WWE, there was a lot of people who didn't like that because they said, "Oh, we shouldn't be focusing on ex-football players and ex-cheerleaders and volleyball players and the like. We should be focusing on independent wrestling." And now that the focus is on independent wrestling, everyone still wants something to complain about, and they're skeptical of this program. And again, I get it. I completely understand having skepticism regarding any major corporation kind of dipping their toes in the levels that are below them. But it's my understanding that this program is fully meant to shine a light on independent wrestling in every facet. Like I said, the schools, the talents, and the promotions eventually down the line. And I've seen things out there that, this is going to be an updated version of the WWE UK stuff, and that hurt the European or the British independent scene. We all have to remember there was also a global pandemic that might have done some damage to independent scene in England, where the COVID restrictions were a little bit deeper than they were in a lot of parts of the United States. But also, I've been told by various people that there is no plan whatsoever to start any sort of WWE independent wrestling organization. There's not going to be a WWE ID promotion where ID talents are are contracted to go work at. That's not what this program's all about. This ID program is about shining light on organizations that already exist, that have put the time and effort into growing their own brand within their own communities. And the idea would be that you would send wrestlers who have the WWE ID stamp of approval to those promotions events eventually, which would help shine a light on those promotions through the marketing behemoth that is WWE. And anytime, myself as an independent wrestling promoter, anytime you can get even just a little bump in marketing, let alone a large bump from an organization like WWE, that's invaluable as a promoter on such a small level that we are here on the independents.
One be willing to bet, Marek, that this just makes the wait list longer to get into
it's been a very busy week for me. It feels this past week has felt like it's been 6 months with the amount of applications we've been getting. Yes, a steady influx of applications. You mentioned it earlier at the top of the show that I've been a busy guy in terms of making the rounds and doing the interviews and I've been on local news and various wrestling podcasts. This is actually my third interview of the day. So we're staying busy, man, but that's what life's all about. And if I can put in a little extra work to shine an extra light on the Black and Brave, which will then in turn shine extra lights on my students, past, present, and future, then that's certainly something I'm willing to do.
So when you were approached with this prospective WWE ID, what were your initial thoughts? How did you feel about this being Black and Brave being a part of this? Obviously, it's a huge deal since we're spotlighting the independent wrestling scene. What were your initial thoughts when they approached Black and Brave?
Well, my first thought was that it was quite an honor to be asked to be involved. Obviously my business partner has been recognized by WWE in various ways through his 12-year tenure with the company. But myself, I've done a little work with WWE and I've had some fun moments with them. And like I mentioned earlier, I got to coach down at NXT for a week. It doesn't feel like it was 8 years ago, but it was, and that's crazy. But so I mean, I've had a few times throughout my career where I've been recognized by them in positive ways, but to have my wrestling school, which I started 10 years ago with my friend, Seth Rollins, to have our wrestling school and our method of training to be approved by WWE. We had a representative come to Black and Brave almost a year ago. It was December of 2023. We had somebody come by and they checked out the facility, and we had a bunch of our wrestlers put on practice matches essentially for them, and they received critiques for that. And I was pulled aside after that session by this individual, and he was just so impressed with not only our facility and not only our training methods, but with our graduates as well. And this person said that we focus on the things at our school. We focus on the things that the WWE looks for in potential hires, the people that they bring into their company. So that felt pretty cool. But then to see it grow into what it's grown into now, and it's going to grow even bigger than this as the program continues to roll out here. But to get that stamp of approval for myself personally, and to know that I've been doing the right things for the past 10 years within Black and Brave. I've been training people the right way, and I'm still doing that today. To have an organization like WWE put their stamp of approval behind me, and essentially tell the world, like, hey, this place does it right, that feels really good for me. So it was quite the honor.
When the number one company, acknowledges you, and you get, the adulation from them you've gotten, this is a big deal. I mean, got to make you feel good at what you do. Got to make it easier to wake up the next morning and go to work.
Absolutely.
Now, Marek, I don't want to put a negative spin on this because I see I see all the positives. I agree with you completely, but you mentioned the internet rumbling and grumbling and all their commentary. What do you say to someone who comes up to you and says, "Man, this is the worst thing ever. They're trying to get a stranglehold on the indies. They're trying to shut down the indies." Crap like
that. Sure. First of all, I would ask for proof. Where are you seeing that? Where have you read that and actual genuine proof, not just internet speculation or conspiracy theories or rumors or anything like that? Do you have proof of this? I've been involved in behind the scenes conversations. I've been in email chains and text conversations, detailing where this program is headed. I can't reveal everything that I've been told. That's another thing. People online, release the contract details. Let us see the contract. I can't do that. No. I'll get in trouble if I release the contract details. I'm not trying to get sued by WWE people. So you're just going to have to be patient. You're going to have to watch what happens. And I do think that in 6 months' time, 8 months' time, a year's time, everybody's going to look back and feel silly about how skeptical they were of the program. And I think when they do look back, they're going to say, hey, independent wrestling it was in a great spot when this program was announced, but it's in an even better spot now. The internet's going to do what the internet's going to do. Anytime you can crap on anything or anyone, that's what's going to happen on the internet. So I'm not too concerned with that. My focus remains with providing the best training possible that I can at the Black and the Brave Wrestling Academy, and preparing my students for a future on the independents and hopefully even beyond that someday.
Absolutely. I love that answer. I love that. I love everything you've had to say with us, Marek. So I want to thank you for coming on. I really appreciate you sharing what you can about this new venture. Before I let you go, I have to ask one of the most hard-hitting questions we've gotten here over the last week, and that is, who was in the gorilla costume on Saturday?
Well, that was the BG. That's BG the gorilla. That's the 9 foot tall gorilla, and I almost resent the fact that you think it was a costume. It's my understanding that was a genuine gorilla, rented from the zoo. So. I think that's all I got to say about that. But actually, as soon as I get off of the program here with you guys, we're going to make the announcement online that we're going to put that entire segment up on our Patreon, SCW's patreon.com/SCW Pro. And for $5 a month, you can watch that segment starting tonight with Joe Carey and BG the Gorilla, as well as many, 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 many classic matches from our 21-year history in SCW Pro. Again, that's $5 on our Patreon. So check it out, guys.
Absolutely. And be sure to check out SCW Pro. I know they're all over the internet, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. Be sure to check them out. They have a great following. They do a great job with everything they do. And a big part of that is you, Marek. So again, thank you for being a part of independent wrestling, being a part of what we do here. Always appreciate having you on the show and hearing what you have to say. So again, thank you very much. We appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, CZ. Thank you, Nick. I think you guys got a great thing going here. It's been awesome to watch how this program has grown over the past couple of years. So you guys keep doing your thing, and I appreciate you guys being a supporter of independent wrestling as a whole, and also supporters of SCW Pro. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Marek. We thank you for everything too. First guest, we'll never forget it.
All right.
And that's going to put a wrap on this special episode of Card Subject to Change. We will be back at our normal time Sunday with the man who is the pitch man of professional wrestling, Mr. Cody Kaiser. So stay tuned for that. Thank you for tuning in tonight, and we'll see you on Sunday right here on Card Subject to Change.
This has been a For Frequency's Sake Podcast Network production. For more great content, subscribe to For Frequency's Sake on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter.